Tonight, tens of millions of Americans bracing for a new wave of winter storms and the potential impact on the holiday travel rush. The TSA considering security changes after a second stowaway on a Delta flight. And late today, news that veteran sportscaster Greg Gumbel has passed away. First, that dangerous winter weather, taking aim at more than 50 million people from coast to coast. Dramatic images of multiple tornadoes touching down just outside Houston. People seen running for cover.
Oh, my God.
More than 3 feet of snow expected in the Rockies. And a wet weekend along the I-95 corridor. Freezing rain and icy conditions expected in the Northeast. Our weather team tracking what this could mean for New Year's Eve plans. Tonight, new security concerns after that second stowaway incident on a Delta flight. The TSA now saying it's working to add more physical barriers around ticketing checkpoints. This as airports are packed nationwide during one of the busiest travel weeks of the year. Hundreds of flights delayed. The public clash over immigration policy playing out online between Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, and some of President-elect Trump's staunchest supporters. Plus, breaking news about TikTok and what the Trump team has just asked the U.S. Supreme Court to do. The CDC revealing a concerning new mutation of the bird flu and what health officials say about how this could impact the spread of the virus. New details emerging about that deadly Christmas Day plane crash overseas. A survivor describing what he witnessed before the crash. New video of New York prison officers beating an inmate while he appears to be restrained, who later died. The Attorney General launching an investigation. A fire at one of the most iconic Christmas markets in the country. A booth up in flames. And it's your chance to be a billionaire. Tonight, long lines across the country for the Mega Millions jackpot, reaching $1.2 billion.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Friday. I'm Whit Johnson in for David. We begin tonight with more than 50 million people bracing for dangerous weather from coast to coast during one of the busiest travel periods of the holiday season. These dramatic images here of multiple tornadoes touching down just outside of Houston, people running for safety. At least 5 tornadoes tearing through Texas. Those storms causing significant damage, now marching to the northeast, bringing freezing rain and ice to parts of the I-95 corridor, including Hartford and Boston. That weather threatening millions of travelers hitting the roads and flying this weekend. What it could mean for your New Year's Eve plans. We'll have the forecast in just a moment, but first, ABC's Zohreen Shah leads us off from Los Angeles.
Less than 24 hours after multiple tornadoes touching down across southeast Texas, forcing people to scramble to safety. Oh, my God. The South bracing for another round of dangerous severe weather as millions hit the road today this holiday travel season. Watch as this powerful twister knocks over a postal van. That same neighborhood in southwest Houston badly damaged. The side of this home exposed. The roof nearly ripped off. That is just one of the coast-to-coast storms sweeping across the country. Out west, snow and high avalanche danger. In Colorado, officials expect heavy snow up to 3 feet and intense winds out west could trigger dangerous avalanche conditions tonight, urging people to stay off the roads in the backcountry from tonight until Monday. In California, a high surf advisory in LA County and Malibu remains. Large waves up to 8 feet high slamming the coastline just days after scenes like this. Boats in a harbor tossed around like toys. Or this dramatic incident, the wharf in Santa Cruz collapsing after a relentless barrage of powerful waves brought it down. Along the coast, officials warning people of high tide, minor coastal flooding, and urging people to stay away from the water. An important reminder, Zohreen Shah, thank you. Let's get right to meteorologist Greg Dutra from our Chicago station WLS with us in New York tonight. And Greg, those severe storms are moving east and more on the way.
Yeah, that's right, Whit. The hits keep on coming, especially for the West Coast, where yet again the atmospheric river developing and determining that they're going to get another couple rounds of rain over the next few days. 3 total rounds of rain. Northern California, Southern Oregon seeing up to 10 inches of rain. High surf warnings from San Francisco to LA and feet of snow in the Rockies. That's prompting a rare 4 out of 5 avalanche danger, even down below tree line. Further east, the weekend bringing in a renewed threat of tornadoes, unfortunately. It looks like Saturday, a little bit farther farther off to the west, then Sunday across the southeastern U.S., and it is not done there. Not to be left out, the Northeast has 7 states with winter weather alerts out for freezing rain for tomorrow morning. Dangerous driving on all the major thoroughfares, 80, 90, 95, and almost the entirety of I-87, and we are not done there, Whit. Unfortunately, it looks like another separate system will move in right around New Year's Eve and soak those revelers in Times Square. Back to you, Whit.
All right, we'll have to plan accordingly. Greg Dutra, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Now to the new airport security concerns amid the holiday travel rush. The TSA now working to add more barriers around ticketing checkpoints. This coming just days after a second person was caught boarding a Delta flight without a ticket in less than a month. And tonight, what we've learned about where that stowaway was trying to hide. Here's ABC's Perry Russom.
Tonight, new details on the case of a second person boarding a plane without a ticket. Police in Seattle finding the stowaway in an airport bathroom after Delta Airlines turned the plane around on the tarmac and removed all passengers. Investigators say it happened on Christmas Eve on a Delta Airlines flight headed from Seattle to Honolulu. A spokesperson for Delta says their employees followed procedures. Tonight, TSA says it's working to add more physical barriers around ticketing checkpoints. Airport officials say the stowaway was properly screened at a TSA checkpoint, got through without a boarding pass, then boarded the plane without showing a ticket.
This has got to stop because there is a very definite security risk in having people get aboard without a ticket.
Meanwhile, tonight, hundreds of flights delayed up and down the country as Americans pack the skies in the middle of the holiday travel rush. Airports in Atlanta, Chicago, and Dallas hardest hit by delays.
We were on a flight to Dallas-Fort Worth. It got canceled for bad weather.
AAA says 90% of travelers are driving to their destinations. A busy part of Interstate 80 in northern New Jersey, west of New York City, closed after the sinkhole opened up, consuming an entire lane. Emergency repairs ongoing. Officials say the sinkhole is 40 feet wide, 40 feet deep, created by the collapse of an old mine shaft. Whit.
All right, Perry Russom, thank you. To politics now and the very public clash of Trump allies over immigration policy. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy among those urging the new administration to embrace skilled foreign workers. But it's sparking backlash from other Trump supporters. And late today, news about TikTok and what the Trump team has just requested. Here's ABC's White House correspondent, Mary Alice Parks.
Tonight, some of President-elect Donald Trump's staunchest supporters at odds with each other over his immigration agenda.
American jobs for American citizen workers. This is a scam, a total scam. And if we got to have a throwdown, let's have it now.
The debate sparked by some of Trump's anti-immigration loyalists, taking aim at his Silicon Valley supporters, including some who have advocated for a visa program for highly skilled foreign workers. The billionaire Elon Musk, the South African-born entrepreneur behind Tesla and SpaceX, said companies face a dire shortage of extremely talented and motivated engineers in America. Businessman Vivek Ramaswamy also defending the visas. Ramaswamy saying our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long. The H-1B visa program allows thousands of foreign workers into the U.S. to work for U.S. companies for up to 6 years in fields like technology and medicine. Former presidential candidate Nikki Haley among those pushing back against Ramaswamy. We should be investing and prioritizing Americans, not foreign workers. In his first term, Trump criticized the visa program and suspended it completely in 2020 during the pandemic.
Mary Alice Parks is traveling with the president-elect, and Mary Alice, Trump's team just moments ago making that news about TikTok, asking the Supreme Court to delay the law banning the app.
Yeah, Whit, that's right. The bipartisan law to ban the app is set to go into effect on January 19th, the day before Trump is inaugurated. But now the Trump team has formally asked the court to delay that deadline to try to give the incoming president time to negotiate a resolution to both save the platform and address the national security concerns. Whit.
Something to watch in the weeks ahead. Mary Alice, thank you. Next tonight, a potentially troubling new development about the bird flu. The CDC reporting that the virus mutated inside a severely ill patient in the U.S., which could make the disease easier to spread. But no transmissions to other people have been reported, and the CDC says the risk to the general public remains low. Here's ABC's Phil Lipoff.
Tonight, the Centers for Disease Control finding potentially concerning new mutations in the bird flu from a patient recently hospitalized with a serious case of the virus.
The CDC found that this version of the virus had additional mutations that made it attach to upper airway cells more easily, hinting at a better ability to infect people. That being said, this was only found in the individual that was sick, and there's no reason to believe that this version of the virus is spread more broadly.
But the agency making it clear that the risk to the general public has not changed and remains low. The CDC has confirmed at least 65 cases of bird flu in people in the U.S. this year.
They're monitoring more than 10,000 exposures, but they've only tested 530. What does that mean? That means we're not testing enough. And we know from other viruses that a lot of the spread can be asymptomatic.
For now, the greatest risk may be to animals. Earlier this week, the death of a house cat in Oregon prompting a pet food company to voluntarily recall a batch of its raw frozen pet food that tested positive for the virus.
There's no reason to believe that this version of the virus is spread more broadly in the population, and we've yet to see any person-to-person transmission, which is a good sign that we still have this virus under control.
And officials in California have actually issued a state of emergency over the bird flu at dairy farms and are asking people to avoid raw dairy products. Whit?
Phil Lipoff for us tonight. Thank you. Turning overseas now, and survivors of that horrific Christmas Day plane crash speaking publicly for the first time. And the investigation continues amid growing questions about whether a Russian anti-aircraft system accidentally shot down the plane in Kazakhstan. ABC's Inez de la Catera with late details.
Tonight, survivors of the Christmas Day crash of Azerbaijan Airlines Flight 8243 in Kazakhstan speaking out, with questions swirling about whether Russian anti-aircraft systems may have accidentally shot the plane down, killing dozens. This man saying he heard a loud bang as the plane approached Grozny. I already realized that it was all over, he says. I decided I should film my last minutes now. His account appearing to line up with what an Azeri crew member recovering at a hospital in Baku told us, saying he heard 3 thuds over Grozny and noticed shortly after that he had been injured. In the left arm, he says, I don't know what touched me. I just looked and saw blood. But our conversation was cut short. Excuse me, I have to turn my phone off, he says. They're not allowing me to speak. U.S. officials acknowledging the possibility an air defense system caused the crash, but other experts already more convinced. Lieutenant Colonel Friedrich Koga was a ballistics expert on the investigation that determined Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 was shot down by Russian forces in Ukraine in 2014. He says he has no doubt Flight 8243 was also fired upon.
And so this is the typical pattern that you would see from a warhead exploding in vicinity of the fuselage.
And with Fly Dubai now joining several other airlines, including Israel's flagship carrier El Al, in suspending their flights to Russia. Whit?
Inez de la Catera, thank you. Back here in the U.S., new video released just hours ago showing the disturbing beating of a New York inmate. Robert Brooks was handcuffed when the incident took place earlier this month. The New York State Attorney General is now investigating. We want to warn you, this video is disturbing. Here's ABC's Morgan Norwood.
Tonight, disturbing police body camera video shows corrections officers at an upstate New York prison beating a handcuffed inmate for 15 minutes, the day he was transferred into their facility. In the video from multiple body cameras released today by New York State Attorney General Letitia James, you can see officers choking, punching, and kicking 43-year-old Robert Brooks in the face, torso, and genitals on December 9th, as 2 sergeants and a nurse simply watch and never intervene, according to a deposition by an investigator.
As Attorney General, you have my word that we will use every possible tool available to us to investigate this death thoroughly and swiftly.
It happened at the Marcy Correctional Facility in Utica, about 50 miles east of Syracuse. Brooks was pronounced dead the next day at a nearby hospital. A preliminary autopsy ruling Brooks' death a homicide caused by asphyxia due to neck compression. New York Governor Kathy Hochul ordering the termination of 14 prison staffers, including bystanders. Brooks was serving a 12-year prison sentence for stabbing his girlfriend in 2017. An attorney for his family telling ABC News in part, Mr. Brooks was fatally, violently beaten by a group of officers whose job was to keep him safe. He deserved to live.
And tonight, the family attorney also saying the motive for this case is unclear. In fact, she calls it incomprehensible. Whit.
Morgan Norwood with those late developments. Thank you. We turn now to the economy, and mortgage rates rising again this week, reaching a 5-month high. And new data showing that on average, it's 35% more expensive to buy a house than rent. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze.
Tonight, with mortgage rates at a 5-month high, aspiring home buyers are bracing for another challenging housing market in 2025. New data from real estate firm CBRE finds on average in the U.S., it's 35% more expensive to buy a house than to rent. A new apartment lease costs on average $2,200 per month, while a monthly mortgage payment on a new home is close to $3,000.
Okay, so this is it.
This is it. 30-year-old Kristen Holmes in Maryland was on the house hunt for 3 years while paying rent.
It feels like my own.
Saving up enough for a down payment on a fixer-upper. First-time home buyers like Kristen accounting for just 24% of all home sales in the past year, an all-time low.
Why do you think you were able to successfully buy a house at age 30?
I think the first thing is having a plan, each month saving a little bit more, and also working with lenders and understanding what goes behind buying a home is what led me to it.
The average rate on a 30-year fixed mortgage is now 6.85%, and rates are expected to stay in that 6% range next year. Whit?
Frustrating news for home buyers. All right, Elizabeth Schulze, thank you. There's still much more ahead on World News Tonight this Friday. Fire breaking out at one of the most iconic Christmas markets in the U.S. and the passing of veteran sportscaster Greg Gumbel. Next tonight, a fire breaking out at one of the most iconic Christmas markets in the country. Flames shooting from a booth at New York's Bryant Park this morning. Fortunately, this happened before the market opened. No one was hurt. The cause now under investigation. Another Christmas market fire happened at nearby Herald Square earlier this month. When we come back, the Mega Millions jackpot over $1.2 billion, your last chance to buy a ticket. To the index now, we're saying goodbye to a well-known figure in the world of sportscasting. Greg Gumbel's family and CBS Sports releasing a statement saying he has passed away after a courageous battle with cancer, and his iconic voice will never be forgotten. His career spanning more than 50 years in the broadcast business. He was 78 years old. Turning now to the lottery fever sweeping the country. You only have a few hours left for a chance to become a billionaire. The Mega Millions jackpot now over $1.2 billion. The next drawing tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern. Good luck. And still ahead, saying goodbye to a legendary ABC News photojournalist who covered some of the most important stories for generations. Finally tonight, saying goodbye to a legend here at ABC News, Tony Hirashiki, revealing the world from behind his camera. Here's Juju Chang.
Tony Hirashiki was a legendary and much beloved ABC News cameraman for over 40 years. He captured searing images like these from Vietnam for what was the first televised war.
This is the story of the Vietnam War.
I have to shoot how soldiers suffering. So close up of rain, water, also close up of shoes in the mud, soldier suffering.
Hirashiki braved the dangers alongside the best and the brightest ABC had to offer, like Sam Donaldson, Peter Jennings.
Here in the South Vietnamese capital of Saigon.
And this rookie.
This is Ted Koppel, ABC, near Cam Lo, South Vietnam.
Through his viewfinder, Hirashiki captured a first draft of televised American history. He covered it all, from presidential politics to international summits.
I just remember being in Moscow with Sam Donaldson, and Sam insisted on working with Tony, and so did every other anchor that was there.
What made Tony a good cameraman?
Tony had life experience. I mean, he had the beautiful eye to see, like a storyteller.
Tony.
He helped usher in a new generation of anchors.
Investigators say do you remember any of those early stand-ups?
One time I remember just 10 minutes before, already show started, and you came and make sure I don't mistake.
I came to you and the show was already on the air.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. Well, thank you for having patience for all of us, all these years.
You are one of my correspondents, too.
And I'm proud of that. Proud of that, Tony.
And our thoughts are with his family tonight. Have a good night.
Thank you for making World News Tonight with David Muir, America's most watched newscast.